It is estimated that 40 to 80% of school-age children experience bullying at some point during their school careers, and 10%, 10 to 15%, I beg your pardon, may either be chronic victims or bullies themselves. It is also worthy of note that bullying does not only occur among school children, but it occurs in all strata. I am Olajumoke on Let's Talk. Welcome and thank you for watching. The topic is dealing with bullying. My guest is Mrs. Olajumoke Salako, an occupational therapist. But before we delve into the program proper, as usual, I'd like to remind you to please subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on all of our social media platforms if you haven't done so yet. So please stay with us. Thank you so much, Miss Salako, for coming on the show.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Okay, now the topic is dealing with bullying. What exactly is bullying and what does it entail?
Bullying is unwanted aggressive behavior among school-age children and also possibly adults that involves a real or perceived power imbalance. And usually the behavior is repeated or has a potential to be repeated over time.
In my introduction, I mentioned that we have chronic victims, bullies themselves, and it is not only found among school-age children. So, in your own understanding or opinion, what would you say about that?
Please
About
mention that again.
this, yes, bullying in not just among school children, but even adults can also be bullied, and we also have bullies themselves, because basically I believe it's a psychological problem, if I beg to be corrected. But in your own opinion, how would you rate this even in the midst of grown-ups?
Yes, we can say that bullying occurs with all ages, not just school-age children, but also adults. I don't know if we can mention it as, yes, it can lead to psychological issues, or the cause of the bullying can be psychological issues. But I wouldn't say bullying itself. It's is like we can't really call it a psychological like diagnosis. But I would say it's just some form of behavior. I would say it's a behavior that is aggressive towards someone else. And it usually starts off with, probably just being mean. It can be attitude, gestures towards someone else. But there's different ways that people bully. And it usually starts with something very subtle. And given the chances, it just keeps increasing and increasing, especially with, of course, school-age children. But with adults, I think as adults, we will probably be able to notice it more easy compared to a school-age child. That's what I will add with that.
Now you can continue with the different kinds of bullying that we have, and you can take us through each and every one of them to help us have a better understanding and how to actually identify such.
Okay, let's start off with verbal bullying. And verbal bullying, it's basically it's saying or writing something. It can be teasing, name calling. It can be sexual comments. It can be taunting. It can be threatening to cause harm. So that's a form of verbal bullying. Just let's give an example of students in school. And students can use the words such as like loser or things that are so demeaning. And that's a form of verbal bullying. We also have social bullying, and some also tag it as social emotional bullying. And it's usually in the form of relationships. And it involves like hurting someone's reputation or their relationships. And these are ways we can point out social bullying, maybe like leaving someone out on purpose, Maybe you have a clique and you purposely leave someone out of that clique or that cause. Maybe you're planning an event and you leave that person out. If that person is in the same club or organization as you, but you purposefully leave that person out, that is a form of social bullying. We also have physical bullying, and physical bullying involves physically hurting someone. It can be punching, kicking, spitting, throwing, tripping the person, which is very common, of course, in with school age children, or even just making rude gestures like putting your middle finger up at someone. So that's a form of bullying. And the fourth one that has been mentioned on several sites would be cyberbullying, and that has to do with any form of it's a type of bullying that is done online, or with any kind of electronic device. And of course, the intent is to hurt someone. It can be through apps, through messaging, through, social media, things like that. And just either trying to upload pictures, upload videos to embarrass someone, or calling them out of a situation, things like that. Any form of embarrassment or trying to hurt someone's reputation online. So that will be, an example of cyberbullying, and that's a major thing. I feel like that is across from school age to adults. It's something that we can all notice, and I feel like a lot of people can recognize it right away, because anything that can bring your reputation down online is a form of cyberbullying.
Okay. Now we know that relating to bullying, it could be somebody was telling me something that is it something that can be inherited from parent, or maybe it could be as a result of past blame being passed on to generations yet unborn. Because like of course you rightly said that it could a psychological problem could actually lead to bullying, and we know that in our schools these days there's a whole lot of things happening there, especially bullying, when you get to hear that a child tells you, "Mommy, I'm not going to school today." And also, if you were following the trend on social media, you would remember that there's this boy
Sylvester?
yes, Sylvester.
Yes.
So who
Mhm.
I would say that was also something called bullying, because um, maybe you should just explain further. I wouldn't want to say something that's out of
From what I
proportion.
know from the story, it was about a young boy. I forgot his age. I think he was just about to turn 10. Was it? I forgot the age. I'm not even gonna say the wrong age, but pretty much we don't know what happened while he was going through the bullying, but at the end results is what we saw when the parents uploaded a video of him in pain. And I think he had multiple bruises, a lot of, bruising and swelling around the oral area. But pretty much the information that we received, from the media was that he was probably being hazed in a cult or something like that. We don't know. I don't know the full details, but I would say he went through some form of physical bullying, because you can see the signs. He was hurt, and also I think he probably ingested something. So that was definitely a form of bullying that he went through, and of course you can see that it was on purpose. If something was not intentional, the bruising, the wounds, and it wouldn't lead to death. So clearly he went through bullying. And if we want to mention all the types of bullying, we talked about verbal. I'm sure he probably went through verbal bullying, physical bullying, and social bullying. So I think with his situation, it touches all points. And we can even include cyberbullying, because I remember, if you look through social media, different pages, some people were even comments, some people were even blaming him and victim shaming, so that's a form of bullying too. It was almost like they were trying to bring down his reputation, or put in fault or blame to him, or his parents. So I would feel like with that situation, it touches all form of bullying.
Okay, let's quickly go on this break, and when we come back, we'll continue from there. Please stay with us. Don't go anywhere. The program is Let's Talk on DNTWOK, and I've been speaking with Mrs. Olajumoke Salako, and the topic has been dealing with with bullying. I wouldn't say cyberbullying because that's one of the things that we've actually discussed. Now, let's go back to the discussion proper, and I hope that you will be able to get something out of it because it is very, very essential that we discuss this topic. Thank you so much for standing by. Now, before we went on that break, we're talking about the Sylvester story. Now, I want us to look at the role of parents in this instance. When a child, how should parents be psychologically present, or they should be sensitive? How sensitive should they be to their children's need, especially when they start seeing little changes in their ward?
Okay. I think as parents, because I'm a parent as well, we have to be extra sensitive, especially as our kids graduate from different levels, different grades. And this is where we have to be really present as parents. We all know that we have to work, to feed the house, to feed our children, to provide. But at the end of the day, we still have to take time to notice little things. There's different signs of bullying, and it can be something physical, it can be from physical, emotional, just noticing behaviors in the house, and, we're talking about different age ranges, but I would just mention, let's talk about maybe like from elementary age to like high school. So some signs of bullying can be unexplainable injuries. That was the case of our Sylvester story. Maybe lost items, maybe like a very let's talk about maybe like a earring that your daughter or your son or your daughter really loves, or a chain that your son really loves, and out of nowhere you don't see that item anymore. That could be possibly because the bully or bullies um, have taken it away from your student, from your child. It can be even falling sick, or pretending to be sick, maybe avoiding school, avoiding homework, avoiding going out with friends, changes in eating habits, things like that, or skipping meals, or rushing to eat so that your child won't stay and have a chat with you during dinner or lunch. Um, maybe a sudden loss of friends, just avoiding social situations, even difficulty sleeping, that can be a sign of maybe something's going on in school or wherever they may be in a club or organization. And I noticed another thing that I read about self-destructive behaviors that can be like running from home, harming themselves, suicidal ideation, talking about suicide, and sometimes your child may not come out to you, and sometimes they may. We also have to notice if our child is, trying to find ways to talk to you, we have to be present. We can't just say, I'm busy, I'm busy, I'm busy. We have to make time to, check in. I will call it check in with our children. And sometimes they may not feel so comfortable talking with, their parents. Maybe a counselor at school can check in with them. And that's where the parent will have to talk with the counselor. Sometimes children are not that close with their parents. They may be close with another relative or a staff in the school or even a friend. Sometimes, you can even check in with their friend. Like, have you noticed this from my daughter, my son? So those are ways we just have to be extra sensitive when it comes to bullying. But I think one of the little signs may be like avoidance, or being or seeming withdrawn. That's what I will say.
Okay. Or when a child refuses to go to school or tells his parents to please change my school, and so many other things like that.
And if a child is saying, please change my school, then that means something serious has really occurred. For them to just, not risk, but just for them to not even care about their friends or whatever, they just want to get out of the building, then that means they're not even feeling comfortable being around the so-called, students that may be bullying, or they just don't want to be in that school anymore because They don't feel safe. That's what I would say. When a child doesn't feel safe in an environment, then that's a problem. And I would also say it's also time. And I think once a child mentions something like this, the parent should find ways to report it to administration in the school. We shouldn't just stop it at home because we don't know what other child may be going through this. So this is where it comes. We have to become a community, not just me, myself, and I, or my family and I. Just we have to really be accountable for all our children and the community. If there's a bully in the school, we have to point it out. The authorities have to know, the principal, the counselors have to know, and they have to address it. And this is where it comes, where the parent of that so-called bully has to be notified, because that's the only way the situation can be addressed. If all parties are involved and all parents are involved and the situation is addressed.
What if in the situation where the bully itself is the teacher?
That's a different kind of situation. When I would say, if the teacher is the bully, definitely the parent has to get involved and alert the principal of the school or the head of the school. And if the situation hasn't changed, if the teacher has not stopped the bullying, I would recommend either the child the class is changed, or just take the child out of the school, because sometimes they may just tag this child as, some staff may not support the child, and they may support their so-called colleague. So if there's not a support system for that child and their family, then I would say pull your child out of that school. Because if your child is not feeling safe in that school because of that one teacher, that's when something you have to take a bigger solution has to be, there has to be a bigger solution. And either the solution is pull your child out if the head of the school is not addressing it the way you would want to be addressed.
Mm. Thank you so much for that. So, what are the effects of bullying, psychologically, emotionally, and otherwise?
First off, there's the effects right away. You don't feel safe. You're probably scared. You become withdrawn socially, emotionally, and it can cause so many things. It can cause depression. It can lead to suicide. It can lead to, harming yourself. And funny enough, bullying can lead to someone else, lead to you bullying. So let's say, for example, if I'm being bullied by let's even start from the home. Sometimes little siblings are bullied by their older siblings. And that can cause that little sibling to now become a bully in the school environment. So it becomes a trickle down effect. It's like almost like a domino effect, where I was bullied, now I become the bully. And I think you can attest to even schools, sometimes in boarding school, like the older students,
I was
they,
punished when I was in the GS1, so I'm going to do the same to you.
yes, exactly. I experienced it. Now
Of course, I
you
did
have to
too.
experience and feel my pain.
It
So,
wasn't
and it
easy.
becomes, say that again.
I said it wasn't easy. I did too. Seniors punishing us anyhow, telling, it's like passing it on.
Exactly. It's almost like you're passing the torch down from one grade to the next. And, I understand the little, it's a form of, some having some kind of control or power. Everybody wants to be in control or have power over someone else. And that's where that's, I think, what it all boils down to when it comes to someone bullying, whether they were bullied or not. They just want to have some kind of control or power. And it can even be some kind of popularity, let's be honest, a bully is always very popular, or maybe they want to become popular. So that's their way of becoming popular, bullying. But it all has to do with some form of control or power, whatever. But the person that's being bullied of course, is never a good thing for them because they go through so many, emotional roller coasters. And the idea when I mentioned feeling safe, that's to me, that's one of the most important things. Like if a child is feeling unsafe, that it can never lead to anything good. So, we want our children to feel safe wherever they are, whether in school, at home, church. And that's the thing. People can be bullied in different environments. It's not just school. Like we talked about adults. Sometimes adults are bullied in the workplace. So, and the effect, it can lead to so many effects. And like I said, feeling withdrawn, suicide, depression, just a lot of psychological effects, of course, emotional effects. And it can also insecurity. That's what I would say. Insecurity, a lack of confidence when you're being picked on. And funny enough, the insecurity can be on both parts because I feel like people that are bullied, people that bully are also insecure about something. You know, they're lacking something or they're hiding something. They don't have something. And their way to retaliate is just to put that aggression on someone else. So I think that insecurity goes on both sides, both the person bullying and the person that is being bullied. And it can, of course, it can make the person that is being bullied feel insecure because they will feel like, especially if they can't defend themselves, they can't fight for themselves, or if no one is defending them or helping them. And that's another situation when we have, a bullying situation and people are witnessing or students are witnessing and no one is there to help. Everyone is just watching and bystanding. We can call them bystanders. They're just looking, they're not helping. And there's some people that are even assisting the bullying. That happens a lot in schools where either they're laughing or they're pointing or they're even, encouraging the bully to continue in the act. So we just have to pay attention to all these, there's different forms and it's a complex situation when it comes to bullying.
Okay. So finally, how can we deal with bullying, especially when it's coming from workplace, social media, and even in families?
Okay, let's start off with the home environment. I think every home should have the foundation should definitely be love. The foundation should be love, care, support. When you feel that in your own home, then that you're already off to a great start to go out into the world. When you feel loved by your family, when you know they're supporting you, of course siblings tease each other here and there, but if we can express our pain and hurt to our siblings and they they hold themselves responsible for those actions. And then I feel like that's a good thing because let's say I have a sibling right now, and let's say I have a sister right now, and she called me out of my name or said something that really hurt my feelings. It's my job to tell her, or maybe her job to know that she hurt my feelings, but I should also be very vocal about how I feel. And once I'm vocal about how I feel and my sister understands how I feel, just by her apologizing or taking account of what she did, that's already shows that okay, we understand each other. There's support, there's love, there's care for each other because we're understanding each other's feelings and we're being accountable for each other's feelings. And let's say it's even younger siblings. This is where the parents come into play, where if an older sibling is bullying the younger sibling, that's where the parent will come into the situation and handle it and address it by calling out their older sibling and correcting them. And that's where all of this starts from home. But sometimes we can have homes where the older sibling is pestering the younger sibling and the parent is just doing nothing. Maybe they're ignoring or they're like, oh, it's child's play. But if you see that younger sibling is now hurt, feeling low, maybe withdrawn, not talking, clearly that's younger sibling is hurt. So these are ways we just have to handle it at home. Because if these things are not handled at home, this is where it trickles down to school, to the work environment. Now, if we're talking about school, even before I get into school, so in home, there just has to be, how do I call it? Standard. There has to be a standard that this is what we expect in this house. No one is calling anybody out of their names. No one is bullying. No one is disrespecting. That no tolerance. It has to be established in the home. That when you do this, these are the consequences. So where there's a standard, then everybody follows the standards. If you fall out of line, then you will be there will be consequences. And same thing in the school. Like I talked about earlier, policies. If there are policies in place that address bullying, and this is mentioned as soon as the students start school, maybe students can sign a vow or a pledge saying that they won't bully, because if they do bully, maybe there can be suspension. They can be expelled from school, things like that. And there has to be strict policies that are enforced, because you can have a policy, but if it's not enforced, then it's almost like there's no law, or there's no order. And I would say we also have to have staff in place that always, we also call them counselors in school. There has to be counselors that are willing to listen, that are always there to listen to our students, that if they're going through any kind of situations, they should feel comfortable and safe to come to them, and once that counselor hears that, the counselor, or whether it's a teacher or staff or counselor, they should be very proactive in letting the head of the school or the right authorities know, so that bullying situation is handled. And in the work environment, I feel like the same thing. At my job, we always there's this thing called professional development courses that we do, or some kind of courses that we take. I know we recently did one about sexual assault or sexual harassment, and same thing as bullying. So things like that, when there's policies and professional development courses, because sometimes people don't know that they're bullying, or they don't either they don't recognize bullying, they don't know it's bullying. So sometimes you have to put it out there to people, whether through a course or something, whether it's done online or in person, where they're reading about what bullying is, how to recognize it, how to address it. So it all starts with information and standards and policies, but all these has to be in place. And wherever we are, whether work, school, at home, there has to be some kind of standard set to address bullying.
I wish I could have caught you, but we are actually way out of time. Thank you so much for coming on the show. It's wonderful having you. I'm really glad to
Thank
have
you.
you. Okay, and to you out there, thank you too for being part of the show. Bullying is really a terrible thing, and you wouldn't want to be found in such thing. So until next time, I remain Olajumoke. Bye for now.